Hey Mandy,
Hi, Lisa.
how's it going?
It's going well. I'm not my usual chippy chipper self. I'm kind of, I'm just busy and there's a lot going on. I'm trying to stay positive and stay in a good frame of mind, but I am extremely kind of overwhelmed,
Yeah,
with work, with life, with kids, with everything. So I'll be fully transparent today that I'm not like at 100,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And isn't it interesting that we expect ourselves to be at 100, even when we are in situations that really dictate and determine that we can't be at 100.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you're in a new role. It's a big stretch. Things are different. There's a lot to learn, not just the job itself, but learning about yourself in this new situation. And being at 100 is so unrealistic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
And
feel
with
the heaviness on you.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I was telling you before we started, our AC went out this weekend and it was just, anytime you're already moving really quickly and you get a kink,
Yeah.
and there's other kinks that seem to happen,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it
Yes.
just kind of throws you off.
Oh
And
God.
I'm really trying hard to focus on my foundation, to get through the bumps.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny because 2 weeks ago, uh we were supposed to have our call and we both had to move it. And so, but I had like an incredible week at work, incredible week. I took on a new team. I added a team to my current team. And I was originally, pretty stressed about it and excited, but stressed. And then I had this amazing week of bringing people together. And it was, it was just it was a very positive leadership experience
Sounds
of
like it
getting
was
people talking.
energizing.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna call her. We should do a podcast right now because I'm in a great place and I want to talk about all the good things. And then,
Yeah.
I didn't because I usually dedicate the weekend just to family,
Mhm.
and then I did it. And then the roller coaster ride like quickly went down and I had like a super challenging week. And I'm like, oh no, now we're gonna talk when I'm not like at the height of it. And it's funny because part of my personality too is I only want to come to these in a great place.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not realistic at
It's
all.
kind of like, when we see people's pictures on Facebook or Instagram,
Exactly.
or it's nicely curated and we're showing the best of ourselves. The vacations, the graduations, the weddings, the fancy weekends, whatever,
Yep.
right? But we're not necessarily showing those pictures or writing little stuff up when we're kind of in the doldrums.
Yeah.
But life's real. Life comes
Yeah.
at us like a whirlwind sometimes, and other times like a beautiful carnival or festival,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's so true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And as I listen to you share your stuff, I mean, the last month has not been a cakewalk for me either. I told you about my jumping eye. Now, when I
Yeah.
say that to folks, they're like, yeah, my eyes twitch too. I'm like, yeah, my eyes have twitched in the past, but this is not a twitching eye. This is my left eye pulsating out of the socket for over a month and a half now. Having doctors look at me and trying to figure out what's going on. It's like, sometimes I say it's like somebody has a plunger on my eye and and by the end of the day, I feel like my eye has drooped down to the side of my face. So I've got to
Oh,
be managing my time on screen. Now, I live my world, my
yeah.
work world on
Yeah.
screen. For the last several weeks, I've had to modify that. Not as much time on screen. I have a big screen that my husband has put on a stand in front of me, which I'm not on right now because as life goes, it's disconnected and my amazing tech support is not present right now to connect me. So I'm on my little laptop, which means after this meeting with you, I've got to pull myself aside, perhaps go walk outside, be looking at things at a distance to rest my
Mm,
eye, right? So,
yeah.
and
So we're bringing our true selves today.
well, we should always, we
Yeah.
like to bring the positive side of stuff and, oh, I'm good, good. But that's not reality, right?
Yeah.
That's the reality is we have to figure out how to balance all of this while we're living life with kids, with spouses, with work, with teams, whatever. And that's what you and I are doing now. If my pulsating eye wasn't enough, last Saturday, well, the Thursday before last Saturday, you know how much I love gardening. So Peter
Hmm.
and I are so immersed in, putting in plants in the backyard and da da da. So Thursday morning, I'm feeling like Superwoman after my workout. We had some plants that need to be positioned in the places that were going to be planted in the ground. And they were big pots, big containers. And I was just picking up stuff and swinging them over. I found myself a couple of times literally over a short hedge, just holding the thing by one hand and I felt strong. I felt good about it. Like and when I was finished, I'm coming in sweating, rushing to the bathroom to get, ready for work. Friday, something felt weird in my back. I just didn't
Oh
feel
no.
right. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna rest a little, but it felt weird. Saturday morning, I kid you not, I could not get out of bed.
Oh.
The pain was brutal. When I say I went to the bathroom and I could not take care of myself by myself, I'm serious. Peter had to sit me down on the toilet, lift me up from the toilet. I know this is way too much info, but had to pull my underwear up and get me dressed to take me to urgent care.
Oh
And I
my
literally
gosh.
shuffled. The pain was so bad that when I got there, I said to the doctor, listen, with this kind of pain, I better be walking out of here with a baby in hand to show came from all this pain.
And give me all the drugs you have.
It was off the chart. Well, they did immediately because it was literally, I was having spasms in my back every 20 seconds or so, and they were excruciating. Like I had to be digging my nails into whatever, the chair, whatever. It was awful. So they gave me the shot, and it took hours before things
Yeah.
slowed down. And by Sunday morning, I was feeling better. And then, so since then, I've been in physiotherapy, working with this.
Well, we're just laying it all out there today.
I know. Here's the beautiful thing that's come out of working with these young doctors in physiotherapy. They're so amazing, and they're getting me back strong and making me feel good. I'm now, man, I can't wait to be back in boot camp and possibly run a Spartan race.
Oh.
I know.
Wow.
A week and a half into physiotherapy, and I'm already going to. But that's me, the driver,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I say all this to say you and I are in the midst of our own transition, work and life and stuff. And all the things that are going on around us, they don't stop because we're going through transition, right? In fact, sometimes they escalate.
Yeah. Or they feel bigger.
They feel bigger, they become magnified, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's one aspect for you of life that has been magnified as a result of this new job, this new stuff that's going on with you?
I think it's been I think what's magnified is really my sensitivity to the work I'm doing, the job I'm doing, if I'm doing it well, if I'm doing it correct, if I'm making mistakes,
Yeah.
And I was at the beginning doing really well with, yes, I'm learning. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fail. But because and a lot of this, is my personality and as a perfectionist too, but I have such high expectations. I mean, unbelievably high expectations. And I can't do every single thing well. Like I can't knock every single thing out of the park. I can't be an amazing mother, an amazing spouse, an amazing worker, an amazing leader all at once. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I fall short on one of those, and especially at work, I'm just being super sensitive about it because, I'm in a new role and I feel like I need to prove myself. I feel like I need to say, you hired me for a reason. I need to prove why I'm here. I need to prove I belong. I need to prove I belong in this industry, it's completely new. And I am open to feedback. It's funny, like I'm totally open to feedback. I love feedback, but at the same time, my default with feedback, critical feedback or, constructive is I failed. I didn't do it right. I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
I did something wrong. I didn't do it right.
Yeah. Those stories you're telling yourself
Yeah.
in your head, it's
Yeah.
actually defeating the value of the feedback that you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's, I know I'm not perfect, right? I know that. But in practice, I still feel when I'm not perfect, I do take that very hard. And I know I need to reframe it, and I'm sure you'll tell me how to reframe it.
Well, you know what?
So I'm ready for that.
But we all need to remind ourselves of, what it is that we're really going through so that we can figure out how to manage it sometimes differently so that our experience can be different and the result can be different. And you and I talked in the last couple of podcasts about, first of all, acknowledging what this change and transition is all about, because we approach them as if they're one and the same, and they're not. So we had talked before about the difference between change and transition. And remember what we said, change is defined as the situation and the occurrences that impact us as individuals, impacts our team, and impacts organization, right? So it's like the need to move from the way things used to be to the way things are now and to the way we need them to be. That's the change that we're going through. So it's a bit like, okay, I'm moving the furniture around in my house. That's not a transition, that's a change. We're shifting things. The transition part of it, as we said the last time, and I'm pulling this directly from the Center for Creative Leadership, where they say, and research supports us looking at this, that transition is the internal psychological process of adapting to this. And a lot of the stuff that you and I and others struggle with during periods of change, the transitional piece of it, it's about the stories we have in our heads and how we use those stories to help us navigate change or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the part of it that is quite often the hardest part, the psychological part, right?
And I'm constantly comparing.
Yeah.
And I know that's not, I'm saying, well, if I would have done this before, XYZ would have happened.
Yeah.
Or, and so there is that constant comparison of, well, this is what would have happened at the other place if I did this, and this is how it would have gone out. And I don't know, I compare those things when they're not even the same.
Not even the same. They're not
like
even
at all.
Because you are actually trying to make sense out of what's going on, right? We try to make sense and we leverage past experience. We leverage other people, other resources to help us make sense. And maybe reflecting on how things were at your old organization might not be as helpful to you as it needs to be, right?
Yeah.
So since you've been doing it on a regular basis, you realize that you're actually coming up short. In fact, it sounds like it's making you a little bit frustrated because the Mandy at your old organization had plateaued. You could do your work in your dream. You did not make any mistakes at that level. You were just coasting along.
Yeah.
And this environment is completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does feel like an insane amount of growth, right? Like what I learn in a week is insane.
Yeah.
It is. There's just that part of my personality that I really want to hear. And maybe this is just my own realization. And maybe it's my childhood. Who knows? I'm going to blame my mother for this. But I'm so used to getting so much praise.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's probably I was spoiled or whatever, but I'm so used to getting that verbal praise.
Yeah.
And
So
that's something,
yeah.
it's not even like I need it. And maybe I do. Maybe that's like my language, my appreciation language,
Yeah.
is,
Well,
just that, but also, at the same time, I do appreciate not getting it a ton, or when it's not warranted, or
yeah.
I want it to be real,
So what I'm hearing you say is you are the kind of person who needs acknowledgement, you need affirmation,
mhm.
right? You need notice of what you're doing, you need that to be affirmed, and you need every now and again that atta girl.
Yeah,
You're on the right track, you're doing, and to a certain extent, we all need some of that. It varies from one leader to the next. But the reality is that for most people, they need some of that. And so leaders have a responsibility to know their people enough to ensure that they're providing that kind of support through acknowledgement and affirmation. It's not necessarily, I know you use the word praise quite a bit to capture what it
yeah,
is that you're looking for. And if you kind of were to dig down deep in that, at your level, what I'm really hearing behind that is you want to be acknowledged and affirmed,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
interestingly enough, Mandy, that's a powerful tool for demonstrating care for your people.
yeah,
And what I'm hearing you say behind all of this is that aspect of care right now, you're not getting it, or at least you're not getting enough of what you need from the folks in your environment. And so it's actually making this transition a bit harder for you.
I think it's slightly a little, I'm getting it.
You're getting
I'm
it.
just I'm just not getting the vast amounts that, yeah. And it's almost, I hate to say it, it's almost good for me, because,
Yeah.
and this is just going into my childhood or whatever, I was given praise for waking up in the morning growing up.
Oh, wow.
Like I was given an unimaginable amount of atta girl for doing essentially just what you should do throughout the day.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I feel like it's a bit of tough love, or a bit of, and I am getting it. I'm just not, it's not the amount that I'm used
That
to.
you're used to. Yeah.
And so I'm really recalibrating what it looks like now, and what is a healthy amount, because I had set myself up at my last role to just be constantly, that's when you're out of place for so long,
Yeah.
you just get that, it just happens.
It
And
just happens. Mhm.
yeah, and you have those relationships where, you know, those are people, you're close to people, so they're always rooting for you.
Mhm.
I don't have those
You
relationships
don't
yet.
have, yes. Yeah.
So
You're building those
yeah,
relationships now. And in
yeah,
fact, and when I say this, I'm meaning this desire for praise and acknowledgement over and above what you have been receiving, and perhaps over and above what's required. It's actually a growth opportunity for you, because one of the things you're going to be experiencing as you continue to grow in this organization or elsewhere is that the higher you go, the less of that you are getting.
yeah,
Right?
exactly,
Right? The less of
exactly.
that you are getting. And so you now have to find other ways to feed that
Yep.
need. And in fact, I think you and I may have talked about Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, before. I don't remember if I shared that with you, but that's a great resource for helping us shift our thinking around failure and making mistakes and growth and the opportunity for growth. But she would say this is a great opportunity for you to grow in a different way, in a way that allows you to create internally what you need for self-affirmation, and actually to be satisfied and okay with the extent of affirmation, praise, acknowledgement that you're receiving, because it's perhaps quite likely going to continue to decrease as you
Yeah.
go up, right?
No, and you're 100% correct,
Yeah.
because I'm in a higher position.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
Nobody's gonna constantly be coming and say, "Oh, Mandy, I love the way you got up off that chair." "Oh, Mandy, I love the way
I
you got up off
know.
that chair." "Oh, Mandy, I love the." No, right? And you
Yeah,
know that. But the truth is, when you're in this new and intense environment, we're seeking out any kind of support we can
yeah,
find to make us feel as if we're doing well,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
you're
No,
finding
you're right.
that you
Yeah,
have to seek those support in different ways.
yeah. And I'm doing a ton more giving of that
Mhm.
support, which I find rewarding on its own.
Yeah,
Like I love leading teams. I love giving that support.
yeah,
And that's, it's almost like I picture it as like a glass of water, right? Like I just my uh levels go up and down and up and down, and I'm just trying to find that happy level of like, how much juice do I need? I give out, I get some in. I give out, I get some in, and really find that balance. And also, um while growing and being at a new place and a new position, you know it's not going to be apples to apples with those levels up.
no, it's not. It's not. It's not. And so, as you know, I have the privilege of coaching a lot of leaders going through situations like that, from literally CEOs of major
Yeah.
organizations to emerging leaders. And the reality is, we see glimpses of all of these things that you're sharing. One of my clients who I have such admiration and respect for. He's a COO of a major organization and just transitioned in about a year and a half ago. And for him, what he struggles with quite a bit is he has to do a tremendous amount of public presentation.
Hmm.
And he is excellent at what he does. That's why he got to this place. And yet the ebb and flow, well, as you call it, the roller coaster ride that the organization has been on because of everything that's happened over the last couple of years, it's made it really hard for him and actually sent his anxiety through the roof. So we've had to go back to some of the basics, looking at some of those foundational things that we all need to work on to help us navigate change and manage transitions effectively. So the navigating is understanding the situational stuff that we're dealing with. And the transition piece is, so how do I fortify myself psychologically in order to manage and navigate this change effectively? And so we go right back to the basics around emotional intelligence. What aspects of my emotional intelligence are being challenged during a period of transition and change, right? And we know, first of all, that changes calls for a great deal of flexibility. And most of us off the top will say, I'm flexible. Of course I'm flexible. Well, what do we really mean by flexibility when we dig deep, right? We're talking about a lot of things, how we approach and even think about change. Now, honestly, I thought I was pretty flexible in dealing with, say, moving from one environment to the next and embracing all the stuff that comes with it. And girl, this move from Austin to Miami says, hey, Lisa, you need to go take a look and work on some stuff, because it has not been easy for me psychologically. Now, I've pinpointed why this has been so challenging for me, and it's leaving my support network that took me over 2 decades to build, and know that, listen, I have friends in Austin who I can call at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they will not be running off a list of curse words in their head, wondering, why is Lisa calling me? No, they're picking up their phone and say, oh my goodness, Lisa needs me. And they're gonna jump to it and come for whatever I might need from them. That's the kind of safety that money can't buy, right?
Yeah.
And that you don't recreate in a few months. So I've had to be talking with myself to say, it took you a while to create that support network, and it's going to take you a while again. And you did it already, and you can do it again. Now, I'm saying a lot there because a lot of details under that I have to attend to, but at least acknowledging that to say, man, that rocked my world.
Yeah.
And I need to work on some of the fundamentals around why I may have responded that way, right? People move every day. They've got to leave their support network, right? And I realized that there were other things going on that were impacting my ability to shift readily, right? There are other things happening emotionally and physically that impacted my sense of resilience, which these are all aspects of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
These are all tools that leaders like you need to bring to the table, not just for your own transition, but for your people's transition.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think what you are experiencing and have experienced by moving locations is exactly what I've experienced by moving jobs. You know, I lost a huge group of amazing cheerleaders, supporters, mentors, and that's exactly that sounds exactly what I'm experiencing now. And I've already developed such great relationships in this short amount of time, but just like what you just said, it takes time.
It takes time.
It takes time, and I get impatient.
Yeah, it takes time, Mandy, and it actually takes work as well, as you well know. You know, so it's not just the passage of time. It's not like you say, well, 12 months after you're on this job, everything is going to be okay. No, you've got to look at, okay, so it takes a great deal of resilience to navigate change and to manage transition well. What aspects of my resiliency do I need to be working on? Am I accessing resources available to me? Am I taking care of myself? Am I getting the emotional, psychological, and physical rest that I need to restore, replenish, and come back to the workplace? Sometimes when we're in periods of transition, we're not doing enough work around those areas, and so we're overwhelmed. I interviewed a young leader. Well, he's at a VP at a big tech company this morning. And he was sharing with me the sense of overwhelm that he was experiencing. It's as if he's drowning. And as we went deeper into the conversation, what became pretty clear to him, and it's so wonderful when you don't have to, or I don't have to say to somebody, this is the problem, that as he's sharing, he's realizing, oh my goodness, there are people around me that I could tap into to support me, whether it's through asking questions, asking for help, leveraging support, tweaking aspects of the process in terms of how they manage stuff, to sort of support you and help build your resilience so you're not feeling this sense of overwhelm all the time. So yes, it's the passage of time which will allow familiarity and improve your comfort level, all of that. But while that, you've got to be doing the work around stuff such as I said, resiliency, such as managing your composure. You know, that's one of the areas where so many of my leaders, you know, through the work we do, realize that, listen, they've been allowing their amygdala to run their life. So they're always anxious, on the edge, just going, they're not using moments to pause and to process and to manage those emotions, to quiet the emotions so that they can get work done. Many of my leaders, I think I'm drawn to, and they're drawn to me as well, folks who are drivers. They're very ambitious. They've gotten to where they are because they've delivered, and they're, you know, and quite often they are, you know, sort of more on the rational side. They'll say that they're data driven. And guess what that means for them most of the time? It means that they relegate emotions to kind of like bothersome. Emotions get in the way. We don't deal with emotions. You know, I'm reminded of something that I heard Brene Brown say recently with her new book and her program out around understanding emotions. And she said, based on the research, we are emotional beings who occasionally think. Now, for people like my husband who are highly data driven, that's like, what you talking about? What you talking about? But the science tells us that's how we're wired, right? And so understanding that we're going to be wading through a sea of emotions as we're navigating challenges, and you know, these are challenges that are great opportunities. That's what transitions come with, right? Or changes come with. And as we're going through these periods, we better be on top of, first of all, being aware of our emotions, being able to label them correctly, so that we can respond to and manage them effectively, so we can show up the way we need to.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it, a big piece of the work that you and other leaders have to be focused on to help you and your team navigate this period effectively.
Yeah. I mean, and part of the conversation I'm having with myself right now is, you know, put on your big girl pants.
Yeah.
You know, enough with the, you know, wanting to be held and coddled, but like put on your big girl pants. And
what does that mean? What would that look like? What would that look like for Mandy? What would your people around you experience if you have your good big girl pants on?
I don't know if it's, I mean, I don't know if it's, well, I guess it would be for others. You know, I internalize a lot of anything that has to do with me. So I don't even know if my team would know that I'm feeling insecure or I'm feeling what everything I've shared with you today, you know, because I put on such a different face in front of my team. But I think it's leading through change or leading through fire drills or hiccups that come up, or you know, and also I think this is really important too, and we're planning to talk to the team at large about this, is expecting change. Because as you know, I mean, there's just people quitting left and right everywhere, or people leaving, going on to something different. And I think we have to calibrate those expectations of things are going to change.
Of course,
you know,
yeah,
change is inevitable. And we have to stop kind of going to the amygdala place every time one little thing gets in the way, and really embrace that as part of that's part of the deal.
Part of the deal.
Part of what we're doing. And for me, someone who's not flexible, like, sure, I'll tell you in a job interview I'm flexible. Sure, I'll tell you that. But I'm not. I mean, I can be, but it's not comfortable. You know, it's not comfortable at all. I'd rather stay and do the safe. Well, no, you said that, and that's something in my head. I said, well, no, you said it was due on this day. No, you said we were going to launch on this day. So you can't change it. It's like, well, yes, I can. And I did.
Yes.
And so what I'm having to just really reprogram is change is okay.
Yeah.
It's normal. We have to move and twist and alter and tweak, and really letting our teams know that change and, that influx mode, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
And it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's not an exception. It's not a warning sign. It's not a fire alarm.
And then once you and your team have accepted that, then a good direction to go in is to be thinking about the characteristics that you now want to build into the team and to individuals. Adaptability is going to be critical, right? Flexibility, as we said earlier.
Organization.
Exactly, right? So if it was said that this was going to be launched on the 26th of da-da-da, that's the date that we see today, but so many things can happen that might push that date. And so flexibility says, we're open to that. It might mean it's going to push your team a little bit more, or, call for some different people to be involved, whatever it is. The flexibility is the willingness to pull in and look at different aspects, different perspectives, different timeline, different people, different point of views, whatever. That flexibility is necessary. When we're dealing with intense change and transition as well, we've got to be willing to look at our own capacity as well as the capacity of everybody else on our team, right? Your capacity for managing X, Y, Z, whether it's a capacity for managing this amount of technical stuff, new stuff that you have to learn, your capacity to navigate certain intense people issues, should you be the one, or should someone else be supporting you on this? Or should this not even be on your table to begin with? And sometimes we're not thinking enough, especially you guys as leaders, enough about your own capacity and your people's capacity. And then it's no wonder folks are spreading themselves so thin and feeling burnt out.
I was going to look up Brene Brown's, she just did something about priorities, and it was about a flashlight.
Huh?
It was about a flashlight.
Ah.
And it was basically just saying, like, you can't, oh, here it is. It was, your attention can be like a flashlight. Where you point it becomes brighter, highlighted, and more salient. And she said multitasking, or specifically task switching, is terrible for our performance, accuracy, and mood. You only have one flashlight.
That's right. So that's reminding me of the book Essentialism by Kevin McEwen. And that Kevin invites us in the pursuit of doing less so we can do better.
Yeah.
Right. And it's often challenging for my leaders when they transition to a new role to say no to or to question things that are coming on their table. It's like, I can't. But if you are not a good gatekeeper for yourself, you can't be a good gatekeeper for your team. If you say yes to everything that's coming down the pipe, pretty soon you and your team, you're going to be worn out.
Yeah.
Going to be completely worn. And we're seeing a lot of that right now. So I invite my leaders to really be laser focused on how they're taking care of their people, how they're taking care of themselves, and how they're taking care of their people, because that's going to be one of the best tools for helping manage that transition. Remember the psychological piece of it, right? So here's some things. I jotted down some notes on this because I wanted to make sure that our listeners are aware of this. The people, managing the people side of change is the critical part that helps us to manage the transition. So we've got to create stability. However that is, we know right now teams are fluxing back and forth. People are leaving, people are coming in. Sometimes stability may look like giving people as much advance notice as you can, as you have, so they know what to expect next week when they come into this all hands meeting, that things have changed a little. Sometimes it might mean maintaining the same process we have used over time. So there's this familiarity there. Okay, this is the process. We might tweak it a bit, but the core of it is the same. Whatever things we can pull in as leaders and as teams to maintain some amount of stability is always useful. Then communicating with clarity, like really be clear and invite your people through creating the safety for them to do so, to ask you questions, right? Sometimes they may even push back a bit. And for many, that's going to feel like, oh, they're resisting. And, you know, this resistance, some people are, and here's the deal from my end, resistance isn't a bad thing. Resistance says people want to know more, they want to understand more. So create that space for them to ask questions, provide that clarity, which will then reduce the resistance so that you guys can move from yesterday to tomorrow in a much more effective way. Another one is, I pound this away a lot, creating a psychologically safe place so people feel okay with questioning, with failing, with stretching, whatever it is that needs to happen for growth, create that space for that. And then, as important for the leader and for the team, is creating a clear and compelling purpose. What are we here about? Who are we as a team? And I challenge my leaders with this. Who are you as a leader? And what are you here for? What are you here about? What are you here to do? And what does that look like, the things that you're doing? And if you weren't here, if your team wasn't here, how would that impact the organization? So what is that compelling purpose for why you are here? Because in some of those tough moments when the sky is falling, it's that purpose that's going to propel folks to keep going. It's motivating, especially when that purpose is attached to something bigger than just your paycheck.
Yeah.
And bigger than just the business goal for the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great segue of asking people to think about that today. You know, what's your purpose?
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because I did that when I was switching jobs. You know, I wrote down, here's what I want to do and here's what I want.
Yeah.
And I think revisiting that is important.
Yes. Yes. So there's so much more that you and I can say, and there's so much more to say, but this is a great place to stop. You
Yeah.
know, why am I here? What's my compelling purpose? And
Yeah.
then as a team leader, having that conversation with your team. What is our compelling purpose? Why do we do what we're doing? And then even go further, how do we do it? And what's the impact of what
Yeah.
we do?
Yeah. Yeah. And how does it show up in different things that we're working on? Yeah.
Absolutely. My hope is that, you know, this coming week or this week that we're in is going to be a different week, a better week for you. Even if it's challenging, that you can see how you're growing as a result of the challenge.
Yeah.
And then even if the week beats you up, that
Yeah.
you have an opportunity at the end of the week to go take care of yourself.
Yeah. I'll just call my mom and she'll tell me how amazing I am.
She'll give you some praise, huh? She'll give you some praise. Yeah, I hear
Well,
you.
I know. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you all for listening today. We're going to continue these conversations about transition and change well into this year. Just as we've been talking about, you can find us on Google, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much, Lisa. It was great to see you today and talk to you.
Always lovely, Mandy. Always, always lovely. Thanks again for a great conversation and see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.